Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Derek here with another video, and today we are in a 2020 Toyota 86. So it's not the upgraded Toyota 86 with the 2.4 engine, but it's still the 2.0 engine with just around 200 horsepower and 150 pound-foot of torque. So, and this horsepower can be attained at 7,000 RPM. So we have at least an indicated 7,500 RPM rev limiter. And of course, we're in the manual, 6-speed manual here. And yeah, we are in Boulder, Colorado, driving around on vacation. Whew. This has some aftermarket upgrades, if you want to call them upgrades, because I particularly don't think they are actually upgrades, but it has full around coilovers and they're adjustable, and that was placed on by the owner of this car. And I rented this car through Turo, which is a great service and I'd highly recommend it. Maybe not for this particular car, but yeah, it has some aftermarket parts on it. I saw some aftermarket sway bars and also some aftermarket K&N filters, as well as an oil filter as well. Just from the sound of it, it sounds like not only is there being piped in engine noise, but there's also seemingly, and I could be wrong on this, but it's an air filter on here too, which is making the extra noise that I can hear. So yeah, that's a little bit about this car, and it's been around 7 days since I've been driving this day to day on vacation. So it's been less than ideal. It's been amazing to have in the canyons. It's been less than ideal in terms of a vacation hauler, carrier-arounder, if you will. And let me tell you a little bit about the interior experience thus far. So thus far, the space is fine. It's low, as you might know and understand. You're much taller than the car actually is, and being here in Colorado hiking a lot, I'm usually wearing a hat, and when I'm wearing a hat, I'm hitting my head all over the place. The ceiling height is not that high, but I'm somebody who is 5'10" with some short legs and a pretty tall torso. So when it comes to that, it's not great for my particular experience. So that's one thing to note, is that if you're somebody who has a pretty tall torso, it's probably not the best for you. But in regards to, let's say, overall day-to-day experience in space-wise, it definitely had enough room for what my wife and I. If you're bringing kids, definitely not enough room. But yeah, overall the interior experience is fine. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that's been helpful to have on here as well. Here's the rear view mirror again. You can see in the top left corner here, and the rest of it, again, it takes like, you know, a fourth of the actual screen, which is kind of annoying. And then here you have the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which is a nice integration here. And then something to note with this as well is that the screen doesn't dim when it gets dark out. So I'm not sure if there's a way to change this. Automatic, always dark. That might help it out a little bit, but I don't think that's going to always show dark maps. It might help a little bit too, but there's no brightness changing, which is a little crazy, because there's a button down here in the left corner here, which is nice because you get to turn it up and down, and you dim and undim this particular screen here, the lights that are on here. But yeah, for this, it's sort of just like stuck in place. It does not correlate when you turn this down and this up, and yeah, it's kind of really bad. And then here again, you have a USB-C port where you can connect your phone and get your Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. And then you have an audio auxiliary, which is nice to have as well if you have that. And then here down below, you have a traction off button, one tap, and then you have to hold in the to get your track mode on. So once I hold this, then it turns on the track mode, and then it turns the traction off, which is nice. So there's two, I think. Yeah. And that's also stability control off as well. Interior again, there's some Alcantara material right here. It looks like it's held up decently, but again, you can see here there's a bunch of fingerprints here, and that's probably ridiculously difficult to control. No armrest here, but honestly, if you're shifting gears, you probably don't really want something in your way. So that's really not a bad thing, I think. I think it's pretty decent to have nothing there. It's only for like long drives where you want to rest your elbow on something. So, and you can always rest your elbow on the left side, which is nice. Here, both windows are fully automatic. So automatic down, and then automatic up as well. And then here's a button for your fog lights and opening your trunk. And then another thing here, you can see that the gas gauge, it shows you on the right side. So that's something to note as well. Looking at the visors, they don't push out, which is annoying. Something to also note with this particular car is that these have knee pads for where your knees can hit or rest on instead of plastic panels. This is still pretty plasticky, but it's better than nothing. And yeah, these are the three pedals. The overall uptake in this is pretty nice and linear. And yeah, the brakes and everything that comes stock are not too bad. AC controls are very, very easy and easy to function. The tachometer and the speedometer are very, very easy to read. I would say the speedometer at the bottom left is like useless, and the digital speedometer is really the only thing that I can see, along with the actual tachometer showing me the revs that my car is putting out. So yeah, and as mentioned, right around a 7,500 RPM rev limiter. So interior space, you know, it's okay. If you're taller, you probably might want to opt for a different car. I'm 5'10", as I mentioned. My wife is right around 5'6", I believe. And yeah, overall fuel economy is supposed to be right around 24 mpg in the city and 32 on the highway. And from what I've been seeing, we've been averaging roughly 28 to 30. In the mountains, it's a little bit different because obviously you're going uphill and into elevation as well, so you won't get as good as fuel economy as you would like. But I'm driving in the corners here, and it's handling everything very, very well, even with the aftermarket suspension. It's pretty far lowered, so it's pretty slammed, and every time we go over like somewhat of a bump, it rubs in the rear. So yeah, that's something to note as well. The noise and NVH of the car is pretty awful and horrendous. I would say some of the good things about this car is that fundamentally it teaches you a little bit more about the dynamics of a car.